And now, with Greg Lambert and Silent Mark, the Morecambe Wrestling Podcast!
Hello everybody, we are back with the first episode proper of the Morecambe Wrestling Podcast. I am Greg Lambert.
I'm Silent Mark, lovely to be here. Thank you very much for joining us. Hiya, Greg.
Hello.
It's been a week, hasn't it?
It's been not quite a week, actually. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, it's been weird, though.
We've had quite a time of it over the past few days.
Yeah.
There's a lot to get through.
There is, and a lot of it good.
It's been positive.
It has been very positive.
I've liked the start to February because I think January was a little bit of a depressing month. You know, you have those post-Christmas blues and everybody's feeling a bit down, a bit short of money.
Yeah. And then we go to wrestling and everything gets better.
And then the world suddenly looks a brighter place.
It does.
Certainly in my case, we'll talk about that. And also, thanks to you, the listeners and watchers, because hopefully we'll get this one filmed. We tried to... Right, what we have to make clear, the first episode was called a pilot for a reason.
Yes.
And that is because we knew there'd be teething issues.
And that's the thing, even now, we're still trying our best to get it done properly. Bear in mind, we're two middle-aged men that are just trying to make something.
This is it. We're actually pretty tech-savvy for our age, but still nothing compared to the millennials.
No, not at all. And we are our own producers and things. So the fact that we're still doing this is... The fact that it's not a gramophone, I think, is a positive thing.
It's like we're winding up the podcast to
Yeah.
get it going.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're saying listeners and viewers because we are filming this, hopefully for your viewing pleasure or displeasure, whichever you prefer. But we have to thank everybody who has supported us since we launched the Morecambe Wrestling Podcast.
It's been an amazing, amazing week with the amount of people that have listened to it and have been enthusiastic about it. Even before we started recording it, even before we released it, people were enthusiastic about it. So, yeah, thank you so much for doing it.
I'm getting stopped in the street in Morecambe and people asking me about it, which I'm really chuffed about.
Yeah.
And we're getting a great response on social media as well. So, yeah, thank you very much for doing it. If you are stumbling across this for the first time, thank you very much. However you're listening, we will tell you all the different places that you can listen to the Morecambe Wrestling Podcast, which is through Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Beyond Radio podcasts as well. Just download the Beyond Radio app, or you can go on to beyond.radio, the Beyond Radio website, and support the Morecambe local radio station.
Indeed you do.
Indeed. Thank you to them for hosting our little podcast about wrestling. But thank you so much for your lovely comments on social media since the first episode.
It has been lovely. And again, you were stopped in the street. The amount of people I got talking to me at the wrestling show in general was unbelievable. Usually they come and say hello to me anyway, but they actually had big conversations with me about this. So, yeah, it's lovely to have people enthusiastic.
And you plugged the podcast on the microphone as well.
I did.
Which was good.
And I tried, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Because you say you're not the most comfortable in self-promotion.
I'm useless at it. I'm useless. If anyone's ever looked at my social media, it's basically me trying to go, oh, please do a listen. And I'm not good at it at all. But I'm a difficult sell at the best of times. I've realised that in the past.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that, having seen you in action on Saturday night at Odyssey Pro Wrestling or the Bud Rumble, but we will talk about that.
Yeah, but try and explain that to people.
Well, I don't know, I posted quite a good video of it on our Facebook page. Speaking of which,
yes,
we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we are on Blue Sky with the Morecambe Wrestling Podcast. Please follow us because we're posting loads and loads of content about things that are happening now to do with the podcast. Videos myself and Mark have done, stuff from the Odyssey Pro Wrestling Overboard Rumble show, which has just happened on Saturday as we're recording this, and also some great photos and videos and content from the great history of Morecambe Wrestling, which is why this podcast partly exists, to celebrate the past, present and future of professional wrestling in the seaside town of Morecambe, Northwest Lancashire, England, UK. The world. So yeah, basically, if we're going to review the Facebook page, I started the Facebook page. I don't know if you can see this. With a lovely picture of William Regal with the Eric Morecambe statue.
William Regal there, look, his cheeky face.
Now, that was taken in 2016.
Yes.
William Regal was on his tour of UK venues during WWE's big recruitment campaign of British wrestlers.
Yes, during the NXT UK era, wasn't it? Or just the beginning of the NXT UK.
Indeed, it hadn't launched yet. He was about to Well, they were about to do the big UK Championship tournament, which was the forerunner of NXT UK, which involved, I think, 16 of Britain's top wrestlers.
Done at the Blackpool Winter Gardens.
Including James Drake, who was trained in the Morecambe Wrestling Training School.
He was indeed.
And William Regal was a major scout and driving force behind that. And, of course, William Regal also, during his wrestling career, wrestled in Morecambe.
There we go.
He did indeed. We'll tell more about that on a future podcast. Lovely comment here on our second post from... we're getting contacted by people actually involved in the British wrestling business.
Yes.
Which is nice.
Yes.
And my old boss at PCW, Stephen Fludder...
Oh, nice.
Got in touch and said, can we have Stallion... This is the second week running. Can we have Stallion as a guest?
No.
Yeah, okay.
That's my answer.
Moving on.
Oh, hello. Thank you for letting me know, Steve. It's lovely to have you here listening to the Morecambe Wrestling Podcast. Thank you.
It's still very Sarah Millican. Anyway, we also posted this lovely picture of me and you.
Yes.
Me and the old grey tweed, which I've foregone for this week's episode, with the famous 1987 poster.
Yes.
And I was just looking more deeply into this poster because it's Monday the 1st of June, 1987, at the Empire Arena in Morecambe.
That wasn't that where Bubbles was? Is that not the Empire Arena bit?
I don't know. I think the so Bubbles, for people who don't live in Morecambe, was an indoor swimming pool.
Yeah.
Which was on the same complex as the Morecambe Dome.
Yep.
On the beach bay shore side of the promenade in Morecambe.
Yeah.
I think the Empire Arena's across the road. I think it's where... Did you ever go to the... you might be too young. Do you not remember the Empire nightclub?
No.
No, I used to go there in my 20s.
I'm nearly 40.
Yeah, so you'd have been 10.
Yeah.
Yes, this was in the 90s. It was quite a cool, believe it or not, it was quite a cool nightclub in Morecambe called the Empire.
All right.
So I think the Empire Arena's on that side of the promenade, which is sort of closer to... If you know Morecambe, there's Frontierland, which is derelict now, but was a Wild West fairground for quite a few years when it was open. So this is a main event. Remember last week I talked about Big Daddy?
Yeah.
And how he always, when he was in the sort of the years of his career in the 80s and the 90s, he would always have a smaller tag team partner generally in there with him. And his tag team partner in this instance is Farmer's Boy Greg Valentine.
Right, okay.
Now, what does that conjure up when I say Greg Valentine?
I'd like to think of him, for those who know Morecambe Wrestling, I'd look kind of like a less Chippendale version of Sexy Kev. That kind of like lover boy style wrestler.
Have you never heard of Greg the Hammer Valentine?
No.
Oh, right, okay.
The thing that you need to know, Greg, and I'm going to admit it now, I know very little about wrestling.
Okay. That's great.
Which you should know.
That's fine.
I mean, from back in the day, for those of you who didn't listen, we used to do a show on the radio station we're at, Beyond Radio, called This Programme is Scheduled for One Fall. We did that with Eva Lewis, and it was great. I really loved that show and that podcast. But the problem was I had to host it because I know very little. I had to kind of try and keep the show together. Didn't always work, I'll be honest.
So do I need to call in our new personal ring announcer, who you might have heard at the top of the show, Chris, Mr. Kennedy Brookbanks, to take over the co-hosting of the show? Possibly not, because his surname's really hard to say, as I've just discovered.
And plus, even then, I still know more than Brookbanks does.
True, that's true. What did you think of his ring? As a ring announcer yourself, how would you have graded Chris Brookbanks' ring announcing there out of 10?
Lovely gravitas. Lovely gravitas. A bit more confidence in him.
Yeah.
But that comes with age and experience.
I think he sounded like Rigsby from Rising Damp, but now I'm really showing my age. You're looking totally
No,
blank.
I know Rigsby from Rising Damp.
Okay.
Come on, mate. I grew up on like Dad's Army and stuff. It was amazing.
Podcast!
Okay. But anyway, so, right. I assumed that when I said Greg Valentine, you were going to go, oh, you mean the former WWF Intercontinental Champion and Tag Team Champion, Greg the Hammer Valentine. However, we have determined that you know nothing about wrestling, so you haven't said that.
Yeah.
Instead, you've likened him to Sexy Kev.
Yes.
Which is a great Morecambe reference.
Yes.
And we will talk about Sexy Kev.
We will.
And indeed, unsexy Kev.
Oh, unsexy Kev. The genius of that. Oh, we do need to talk about it.
We'll talk about that on a
Goodness,
future
we
podcast.
need to talk about it.
We will. But no, He is not that Greg Valentine, as long-time WWF fans will remember the other Greg Valentine from the 80s and the 90s. Farmer's boy Greg Valentine was actually Big Daddy's real-life nephew.
Oh.
His real name was Steve Crabtree.
Right. Why have I heard that name?
Because Big Daddy's real name was Shirley Crabtree.
That'll be why.
Yes.
That will be why.
The Crabtree family were very heavily involved in wrestling because Max Crabtree, I think was Daddy's brother, was the promoter.
Right.
And Brian Crabtree was, again, I think, relation, maybe another brother, was always the ring announcer. When I used to go to the Dome, Brian Crabtree was the ring announcer.
Right, okay.
So very much a family business.
Yeah, very much so.
Their opponents in this show in 1987 at the Empire Arena, it's quite a sad story. Giant Haystacks.
Yes, classic.
You can't say Daddy.
No.
Daddy and Haystacks, it's like cheese and pickle.
Yeah.
Morecambe and Wise, they go together.
Yes.
Like Rama Lama Lama La Dinga Da Dinga Dong. What film's that?
That is Grease.
Indeed.
There we go.
There you go. See, I do know films.
Occasionally. Not often.
You can tell I'm in a good mood tonight, can't you?
Yeah.
So Daddy and Haystacks were the ultimate rivals in the 70s and 80s World of Sport Wrestling on ITV, and they came to Morecambe and fought each other loads. Haystacks' partner, have you ever heard of King Kong Kirk?
No, I can't say I have.
Sad story.
Okay.
Mal King Kong Kirk, super heavyweight like Daddy and Haystacks of that era,
Yeah.
wrestled against in this tag match in 1987. That same year at Great Yarmouth, Mal Kirk died in the ring during a match with Big Daddy.
Christ.
I know. He had as it turned out, a pre-existing heart condition.
Oh.
So, yeah, very, very sadly, passed away. But very fondly remembered as a mainstay and in the ring, a fearsome, as I said, super heavyweight who was a lovely guy by all accounts. Never met him, but a lovely, mild-mannered guy outside the ring. But in the ring, one of Daddy's big nemesises during that period of time. So, I found that quite interesting that was on that was the match on the poster. Quite an interesting stories behind that match. And also, Wild Ian McGregor was on that show, who I saw wrestle at the Morecambe Dome in the 90s. And Burly Barry Douglas. So these are names that were regulars in Morecambe at the time.
And even then, so as someone who doesn't know wrestling, they are still a lot of names that even I know. How many shows did you properly go to when you were younger then?
Just the one I mentioned on the first episode, if you listen to the pilot, both myself and Mark talk about our respective first ever shows watching wrestling in Morecambe, and I mentioned the mid-80s, 1985, we think.
Yeah.
I don't think I then went to anything until the 90s, and then they used to have wrestling on at the Morecambe Dome every Thursday night during the summer holidays. It was a regular Thursday night thing. So me and my friends would go every Thursday during the summer holidays in our early 20s, late teens. So I'd be at university. I'd be home from university for the holidays and going to watch Big Daddy, Giant Haystacks, William, then Steve Regal, pre-going to America, Marty Jones, Fit Finlay, and Burly Barry Douglas, Wild Ian McGregor, some of the other names that I've mentioned as well, and some other names that we will talk about on a future podcast as well. Irish Tony Stewart and Johnny Angel.
You were there at the start. It's lovely to see.
It's good. It was good. So that was the poster.
Yes.
What other comments did we get? Now this is a Big Daddy memory. Do you remember Ace Ramone?
I do remember Ace Ramone. Goodness me, I remember Ace Ramone.
For people who don't remember Ace Ramone, or don't know who Ace Ramone is, can you describe Ace Ramone, the wrestler?
Ace Ramone, the wrestler, Morecambe Slim Shady is the way I kind of like to think of him.
Yeah. You know the Offspring song?
Yes, Pretty Fly for a White Guy. He is Morecambe's Pretty Fly for a White Guy.
That's Ace Ramone.
Yeah. That's perfect. You don't need to know any more than that, to be honest.
The lyrics are basically Ace Ramone.
Yes.
But he didn't know it.
No, he didn't.
Which is what made it so great.
But he was great, and he was fantastic. He just was.
Yeah. He was a trainee wrestler in the Morecambe Wrestling Training School. Same class as James Drake.
Yep.
And Craig Collins and people like that. And we were going to devote an entire episode of the podcast to the Morecambe Wrestling Training School because it's just incredible.
I think I can get hold of some training videos. Some of the training shows you did. I think I can get hold of some of those videos.
You can?
Yeah.
Because we did a load of trainee shows.
You did?
In a stunt school.
Yes.
In Morecambe.
And I went to several of them and got told off for shouting.
Who told you off?
I'm sure at one point you did.
Me?
Yeah.
Is that because the stunt school was run by Martin Shenton, legit tough guy and Hollywood stuntman who has played the stunt double for James Bond in Bond movies and probably said, keep the noise down. And if Martin said jump, we said how high.
Yes, no, that probably was it. But it was very much me trying to urge the crowd to kind of, lift themselves up and stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't being nasty. I wasn't, being unpleasant and a, heckler. Not a bad heckler. I was stereotypical wrestling audience.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't go down well.
No.
I'll talk about that later on.
We'll talk about a lot of things
yes.
about the student shows, as we called them. But anyway, Ace Ramon has posted a memory of Big Daddy. And he's put 1987 Morecambe Dome by the yellow stairs. And I saw him getting in his car. It was a white one.
Nice one.
Thanks, Ace.
Cheers, bud.
Cheers for that.
Lovely to see you.
Although the show was Empire Arena, as we've already established. Anyway, what else have we got message-wise on these posts? James Greenwood says, it's real in Morecambe.
It is real in Morecambe. He knows well enough.
We'll talk about him shortly.
We will.
Graham Pearce, who is the ring, a good friend of mine, the ring announcer, your equivalent for PCW.
Yes.
Part of the Ring Announcers Union. No, do you have a Ring Announcers Union?
They might do. I'm not in it.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I've not been invited. I'm not in the WhatsApp group.
They probably do have a WhatsApp group.
They probably do. I'm not in it.
Do you think it's all in block capital letters? It's all projected?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. That could get annoying very quickly.
Yeah.
Graham Pearce says, Stallion as Batman, ? Right, so this comes down to what you were wearing on the last podcast.
That was my last T-shirt, which was Bluntman and Chronic as cartoon characters, but done as Batman and Robin, and the bearded one did look a bit like Stallions.
And I have said to Graham that you will post this picture of the T-shirt so he can decide.
I will try.
That's fine.
I'll try. And for those of you watching at home, this week's T-shirt is CM Punk, but with the Descendants. So that's the punk band, the Descendants.
What has happened to CM Punk there?
He's a baby.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's
is that a zip on his mouth? You don't want to zip up CM Punk's mouth. It takes away all the fun.
No, it's his lip ring and his beard.
Okay.
But there's a punk band called The Descendants, and they've got a logo, which is a guy called Milo, and he's just done as that.
Right.
Facts.
That's brilliant. And I learn something every day.
Thank you.
One of my favourite posts of the week, because we like doing birthdays. Mm-hmm. We'll do birthdays on the Morecambe Wrestling Podcast.
Yes.
We've had 2 legends of Morecambe Wrestling celebrate their birthday this week.
No, mine's not till July.
Okay. Dirk Feelgood.
Ah.
Happy birthday, Dirk.
Happy birthday, Dirk. There's a name I hadn't heard for ages.
The mister who kissed your sister.
Yes.
The brother who scored with your mother. The monk of funk. The altar boy of sexual joy.
He was tremendous.
Do you know, he reminds me a lot of you. I think you're very similar on the microphone. Very, very similar mannerisms.
He was a shambles as well.
At times.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, at times. Yeah. But in a very good way.
Okay.
Great character.
Yeah,
Dirk
he was
Feelgood.
amazing as a character.
And that was always his intro. He used to introduce himself with that spiel.
He's one of the ones from those early days. Like, my memory's shocking at the best of times, but he was one of those from the early days that's still in my head.
So you say early days.
For me,
the early days of you going, is it? So we're talking the noughties.
Yes,
very much so. We will talk more about Dirk Feelgood on the Morecambe Wrestling Podcast, but also it was the man, the myth, the legend, Rockstar Spud's birthday this week.
Spud,
I know.
What a man! I caught me plums on the row.
There we go again.
Stunning.
Yes,
I said plums though this time.
You did this time, so you have to bleep it. Although I probably didn't have to beep it last time either.
It's always better to be safe than sorry.
James Drake, who's been mentioned several times this week on this episode already, posted this fantastic, can I show you this again? This fantastic throwback picture.
That's a good picture.
Of him and Axel Rage.
And then Stallion's photobombing in the background.
Yeah, we tried to cut him out.
Yeah.
And Rockstar Spud.
Indeed.
In the stable known as Team Rockstar.
Indeed. And Rockstar Spud went on to be in Impact, was it? Yes, he was in Impact Wrestling.
He won British Boot Camp on Challenge TV, the search for a British wrestling star.
Yes.
And then went to TNA and became a big star in TNA.
He did.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was little toadying, almost like a personal assistant for Dixie Carter when Dixie, who was the owner of Impact or TNA as it's called again now in real life, but was also the on-screen heel authority figure. And the best thing Rockstar Spud did, I think, when he was in TNA, had a brilliant feud with EC3.
Right.
Ethan Carter III, who was Dixie's storyline nephew.
Fair enough.
So that was brilliant. And then he went to the WWE as Drake Maverick.
He did.
Who was the general manager of the... What was it called? 205 Live, the Cruiserweight show.
Yes, it was 205 Live, yes.
That was it. He did that for a while.
Yeah.
And then he became a wrestler, and he became the 24/7... Do you remember the 24/7 championship? And do you remember when he got pinned by R-Truth for the 24/7 championship at his own wedding?
I didn't know.
Did you not see that episode?
No, I didn't see that one.
We didn't see that episode because he is married to the wrestler Renee Michelle.
Yes.
That is his wife. And they did a vignette at... I don't know whether it was his wedding, but it was definitely around the time where they were walking down the aisle as man and wife, and he got rolled up by R-Truth and pinned. R-Truth ran off with the 24/7 title.
I like it. I like it when people go full force in character.
And do you know what he's doing now?
No, I don't.
He's a writer. He's part of the writing team with WWE.
Oh, nice. See, the writing team has been getting better there.
Probably because of our old mate Rockstar Spud, James Curtin, more than likely. And yes, that was taken when he was in Morecambe, around about 2009. Mm-hmm. He held both the XWA flyweight title for lighter weight wrestlers, and he held the main title as well at the same time.
I completely forgot that we had two titles for that.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
We don't do that as much anymore. They don't do that as much as normal wrestlers, do they? Yeah, you don't have a smaller title.
No. But, yeah, absolutely. Happy birthday, Spud. And it was really nice to see James Drake. James Drake posted that on his Instagram, wishing Spud a very happy birthday last week.
It was absolutely lovely.
Which was great. Any more comments here? Stevie Knight asking... I posted a picture of the Odyssey Pro Wrestling Women's Champion Leah Raven and actual Raven, who appeared in Morecambe at War on the Shore 2005.
See, that would be a fight and a half.
It would.
Leah Raven versus Raven.
And Stevie Knight was just asking who Leah Raven was because Stevie Knight's out of touch, basically. That's just out of touch, really.
You should be better than that.
I tell you what, if you'd seen Leah Raven in action on Saturday night, you'd know exactly what Leah Raven was all about. And we'll talk about that.
She is absolutely tremendous. A proper workhorse is that lady.
Indeed. But Stevie needs to come back to Morecambe so he can catch up with the new generation. But we'll talk about Stevie in great detail. We already did. We've already said he is the Jerry Lawler.
He is.
Of British wrestling.
He is.
And I think that's everything. Oh, no, here we are. Lucy Simons, one half of the Odyssey Pro Wrestling commentary team.
Indeed. Likes cats.
Just watching the Rumble.
Yeah.
The Royal Rumble.
Ooh.
Was about to ask you if Joe Hendry has ever wrestled in Morecambe. Well, that's interesting. Should we park that for now?
We'll park that for now.
Okay. That was interesting. But yes, lots of lovely comments. Thank you very much for those, and keep them coming in. We
appreciate it.
We're here to talk about the history as well as the present. And we've been touching a little bit on that as we've been talking. And with this, we've challenged each other this week to come up with some fascinating facts from Morecambe wrestling history.
We have.
Who's going first?
Can I go first?
Yes.
Because there's only a couple of things that I know about the proper history of Morecambe wrestling. I know about a bit about this period. Know a few bits about the period. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, sir. First Morecambe wrestling show in the 1930s?
That's my fact. Are you trying to steal my fact?
No, I didn't think you were doing that one. But no, is that right? Talk about it then.
Yes. Do you want me to do that first?
Yeah, you do that first.
Okay, right. Well, here it is. So, the first ever wrestling match that we're aware of, and I spoke to my friend John Lister.
Hi, John.
Hi, John. From the Wrestling Heritage website. You think I know a lot about the history of British wrestling?
Yes.
Doesn't touch the sides.
Okay.
Genuinely, compared to John Lister.
And you're the one that wrote the book?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, my knowledge, he could probably tell you who wrestled, in Morecambe on Christmas Day 1957.
He's that good?
He's that good,
okay.
Yes. Yeah, if they did wrestle on Christmas Day in 1957, no idea what they did. And the proof in this is he told me the actual date of the first ever professional wrestling match in Morecambe.
Okay, go on then.
And I thought I was good on dates.
Yeah.
August the 18th, 1932. Athol Oakley versus the Black Adonis. Half an hour, time limit draw.
You see, that's a match and a half. Half an hour. Like half, that's... So, for those of you who don't know, our Rumble on Saturday was 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's 20 people. Half an hour.
I know.
They only just do that now in WWE.
That's right, they do. They do. And, no decision, a time limit draw. Now, Athol Oakley, here's an interesting fact for you.
Go on.
Real name, Sir Edward Athol Oakley, 7th Baronet of Shrewsbury.
Royalty?
Almost. He was, at the time, Britain's first heavyweight all-in wrestling, as they called it back then, champion. And he held the title to 1935, and he was also European champion in 1932 as well. And he was also a promoter. So he might have been the first promoter. He might have promoted that show.
He might have.
He might have been the first ever promoter of professional wrestling in Morecambe in 1932, pre-World War II. Can you believe that?
We'd have to proper go back to, see if there is anything about any of them.
We'll do a bit of research.
Yeah.
It would have probably been the central... I don't think... I'm not 100% on the venue, but probably the Central Pier.
Yeah.
Or the Winter Gardens. It would have been one of those two. Because we talk about the Winter Gardens in the modern era.
Yes.
Central Pier is no longer there. We've mentioned that on the last episode. The Winter Gardens is still there. But it's been in a period of restoration for a lot of years. A beautiful building on Morecambe Promenade. Grade 2 star listed building. A lot of history, a lot of heritage. But it isn't fully functioning and hasn't been since 1977.
No.
But it does open now and again for events to help fund the restoration, and that's why there was wrestling there about 10 years ago, and we talk about that era here on the podcast. But back in the 30s, the Winter Gardens was massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was open all the time.
Huge.
I think they had wrestling a couple of times a week, a couple of times a day at times.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Especially
because it was a big... It was as big as Blackpool when it came to like touristy stuff. Morecambe was a huge place to go to.
Yes.
So it wouldn't surprise me if they had like multiple ones a day.
No.
Same acts going on over and over again.
More than likely. Go on then. What's your fascinating fact from Morecambe wrestling history?
Mine, how much World of Sport was here. World of Sport did loads from Morecambe. Absolutely loads, all at the Winter Gardens and areas. But one of the last ones that was done here was done in 1981. And I could only find one name that was on it, which was star of Raiders of the Lost Ark. And Auf Wiedersehen, Pat.
Yes.
Pat Roach.
The bomber himself.
The bomber himself, Pat Roach, was on the last ever World of Sport done from Morecambe.
That's incredible.
I know.
He was a heavyweight
huge man.
star.
He was huge.
Of that era. And I met him on the very first FWA show I ever worked on.
Really?
2003.
Yeah.
Walthamstow in Essex.
Yeah.
Travelled all the way down there to make my debut as a bad guy, heel manager for the FWA. And they brought in Bomber Pat Roach as the authority figure in FWA.
Blimey.
And I went up to him backstage because a work colleague of mine had found out I was going to meet him and had asked me to get his autograph. And this is my first show. I'm still green as grass in wrestling.
You don't feel like you can, do you?
No, I did, though.
Oh, okay.
That's the point. That's the point. Idiot here. Like,
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Can I please have your autograph?
Yeah, so you can imagine how that went down.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lead balloon.
He'll have been impressed.
He just walked off and looking absolutely disgusted
I'm
at
not
me.
surprised.
You know,
Disgusting.
It's not the done thing for if you're a part of the performing roster to ask one of your fellow performers
Very,
for an
very
autograph.
true.
And I learned that in a heartbeat thanks to Bomber Pat Roach. God rest his soul.
He was amazing. Absolutely amazing. But yeah,
You're
that's
right,
what I found
you're
out.
right. There was loads of World of Sport. The TV cameras came to Morecambe all the time for
Oh, yeah.
ITV.
Well and truly.
That's a good one. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
You are welcome.
So, we'll do that on future podcasts as well. We'll try and think of a more catchy title and fascinating facts from Morecambe wrestling history, because that's...
The history.
We'll think of something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been... I tell you what, we've not only had positive comments on social media. You mentioned the fact that you were getting really nice comments at the Odyssey Pro Wrestling show.
I was, yes.
I went into a pub today and I saw a local licensee from Morecambe Promenade, Anthony Gregson,
Yes.
who said...
I know Gregson.
Have you got a podcast about wrestling? What's it about? Can I listen
wrestling.
to it? Yeah. What's it called? So hopefully Gregson is listening now.
Hi, Gregson.
Hello, Gregson.
Love you, mate.
Thank you for your support. Because he's a musician as well, like yourself.
He is, yes.
Right, get you. Are you a bass player?
Yes, I am.
And he's a bass player?
Yes, he is.
Ah. Are you in the Morecambe Bass Players Union?
I'm not. I'm not in the WhatsApp group either.
You're not in the WhatsApp group?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
can't-
And bass is all in lowercase.
It would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing he said to me, though,
Yes.
he did say, being a casual wrestling fan, are you going to kind of cover the mainstream? So, not interested in the place where he lives and works.
No. Why would he?
Why would you be?
Why would you be?
Just wants to know about WWE.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, we do touch on those because, a lot of Morecambe, people who wrestle in Morecambe now, as we've talked about before, either have or now do work for, the major wrestling promotions around the world.
Indeed. And one being, as Lucy Simons alluded to, Joe Hendry, who was at the Royal Rumble this Saturday night over in America.
Did you watch it?
I haven't yet. Well, I was a bit busy. On Saturday night.
We were.
Yeah. And then I had the kids and I've been at work and I haven't had a chance yet. It is on my list to do this week. I know Alexa Bliss came back, which I'm very happy about.
Yes.
And I know that Joe Hendry was in there, which he should be. He is tremendous.
I'm not being biased when I say this, but I watched it and I actually think it was the best moment of the whole show
Nice.
when he came out.
How he has promoted himself and how he has brought himself into wrestling history over in America, in TNA and in WWE, has been marketing genius.
He's always been like that.
He has. Whenever I saw him, it was a different intro music every single time.
The parody music videos making fun of his opponent.
Yeah, and he was wonderful at it.
He's been someone who I think I spotted it in him right from the very beginning, that I knew he was going to be a somebody. Because Joe was trained in Scotland.
Yep.
He's from Edinburgh. He was given his big break by ICW. Mm-hmm. And the great thing about Joe at that time is he did something which was always described to me in wrestling as the out-of-context principle. Now, what this is where you work for a wrestling promotion, and in ICW's case, ICW is like ECW, only in the UK.
Yeah.
So it's very much about violent brawls. It's risque content. It's blood. It's barbed wire. It's profanity. It's adult-orientated entertainment.
Very much so.
And
opposite to us at Odyssey or opposite to WWE.
Indeed. Totally opposite. So when you've got a promotion like that where everybody is a foul-mouthed brawler, and along comes Joe Hendry with his debut music video in a pristine suit, being all squeaky clean and superior, and talking about how he's going to take out all the violence and swear words and get ICW back on television and take over the heavyweight division. Because he's a legit talented musician and singer.
He's very, very good.
And I saw that music video filmed up on the hills in Edinburgh of him so fabulously smarmy.
Yes.
Looking down his nose on this promotion that he said he was going to take over. And, take out all the things the ICW fans loved about it. I thought that guy, and he's so confident.
Yeah.
And so well enunciated in the way he delivered everything. And literally a couple of months of training. And I thought, wow, that guy's going to be a star. Straight away.
Proof.
This is Christmas 2013.
Absolutely proof. And he was in Morecambe for quite a while, wasn't he? He kept on coming back.
Yeah, it was a great story we did. You know, we did, well, the best way of describing it is, so 2014, the promoter in wrestling in Morecambe is the very well-known local wrestler, Johnny Fear.
Yes.
A.k.a. Jamie Hutchinson. And he's running his promotion called Paid Promotions because he had it in his gimmick was always the paid principles of the psychotic warrior, passion, ambition, intensity, and dedication. Jamie, by his own admission, I think now, wasn't really cut out to be a wrestling promoter, and he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. So a guy who was a referee on the shows called Charles Nelson Riley.
Indeed.
Real name Kieran Engelke. And his family decided to step in and take over the shows in Morecambe. And they wanted to have a fresh start, call it Alpha Omega Wrestling. They hired me to be their kind of, I'd been involved for quite a while at that point. They wanted somebody who's kind of a bit of continuity, who could give them advice and guidance and help them with storylines. And I said, well, rather than just change the name, because nobody knows in Morecambe, Alpha Omega could mean anything to anyone. You know, it doesn't. Why don't we do a storyline where Alpha Omega Wrestling takes over Paid Promotions?
Those type of storylines have always worked well.
Factions.
Because I remember XWA and FWA, that storyline and going over. And you also did the same. Didn't XWA's name have to go down south again, or was that FWA?
Well, no, that was another story. That wasn't really a storyline. The biggest story we did in terms of factions was XWA's feud with GPW.
That was it. That's the one I was thinking of.
That was the one. But we also had feuds with Ricky Knight's WAW at the Dome, and with All Star Wrestling. So every time we did any kind of promotion versus promotion thing, the crowd got really into it because they got behind the home team.
Yes.
And they hated the interlopers. And so it really made for, really great football match style, atmosphere. XWA, GPW, from that famous show where they're kind of dual chanting on each side of the venue.
Yes.
So to create our own interpromotional feud, with our own two brands, that was a great thing to do. And Joe Hendry was massively involved because the storyline began with me being an authority figure, and Alpha Omega Wrestling logos would start appearing on the screen. Yeah. And Alpha Omega T-shirts would start appearing on the merchandise table by surprise. And me and Mr. Big Sean Vasey, who was my bodyguard at the time, bless him, great guy from Cumbria, would go out during the interval, during the fans, where they're queuing at the merchandise table and start chucking, get rid of these T-shirts, angry. What's this Alpha Omega? And then eventually it was revealed that Styx was the driving force, the big hero of Morecambe Wrestling at the time, the Heavyweight House of Pain, was the driving force behind Alpha Omega Wrestling. And the reason he was bringing this in, Alpha being the first letter of the Greek alphabet, it was the beginning of something new.
Yes.
And Omega is the final word of the Greek alphabet, and it was going to be the end of me, Greg the Truth Lambert. So that was the reason that tied that in. So his plan was to get rid of me. So they had a 4-on-4 tag team match in the Winter Gardens, December 2014. My team lost, and I ended up getting thrown out of the Winter Gardens by a group of wrestlers and dumped in a plant pot on the promenade in the freezing December cold in my suit.
Actually hilarious. I've seen pictures.
Soil everywhere.
It was wonderful. You soiled yourself?
No. Actual soil.
There was soil. Sorry, my bad. It's easy to misinterpret.
I still have nightmares about that. So anyway, I then disappeared for a while.
Yes.
And in my place, I hired Joe Hendry. who I'd met a few times the previous year, up and down the country at various events, and we hit it off and got on really well. So Joe Hendry comes in as my kind of mouthpiece, really, basically telling the fans, how dare you disrespect Greg Lambert, or blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. We eventually built to a big match where it was Styx and Joey Hayes for Alpha Omega Wrestling.
Yes.
Versus my handpicked wrestlers, Johnny Fear and Craig Collins, representing Pay Promotions. The problem was they couldn't stand each other.
No.
There was dissension, massive dissension between my two guys. But to try and stack the odds against the heroes, I made myself the special guest referee. I made Chris Ridgway, great wrestler.
Amazing wrestler.
Who I managed at the time in Morecambe, the timekeeper. And Joe Hendry was the ring announcer. Unfortunately, everything went wrong and we lost. And Alpha Omega Wrestling then, a full year after we started the storyline, and after they'd legitimately taken over the company, in storyline took over the company. And Joe was a massive part of that. And then Joe went on he had a match with Danny Hope in the Winter Gardens, and then he attacked Styx because he couldn't let his issue with Styx go. And then he fought Styx on the first show of 2016 in the main event for the for the Alpha Omega Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. Still only 3 years into the business, main eventing in Morecambe. And just doing a great job. I remember he did a load of backstage interviews for us back then.
He did.
He did one with my son.
He was great.
He was bullying Owen like there was no tomorrow. And Owen was a great actor, actually. Even as a kid, he was just so great. He played great foil off Joe. And Joe was so... He could play that role as well. He could play the really kind of intimidating guy as well. Yeah. He's very versatile.
He was very, very good. And now his light and joyful character has come out. And again, he even works with that. There's not many people who can be a very, very good heel and also a tremendous face without any without any drop in quality.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's definitely got that. Like, there are so many people. Like, you look at someone like Roman Reigns, and he's good at both of them, but he's better at heel.
Yeah.
And again, same as Seth Rollins and people like that. Joe Hendry is good at both.
I'm made up for him.
Same.
I honestly was so happy when I saw him come out at number 15 in that Rumble, and he got his little moment with The Miz, and then it took Roman Reigns, who you just mentioned, to eliminate him.
Yeah.
And I'm not giving a spoiler out, because by the time this podcast comes out, if you've not watched it, it's your own stupid fault.
I mean, you've done that for me, so I appreciate it. You sod.
Sorry. Well, he wasn't going to win it, was he? I mean,
no, he wasn't. He wasn't.
But he got the spotlight that he richly deserves. And he started dropping John Cena's name in promos.
He has, and he's been doing that for a bit.
A long time.
And I really enjoy that, and I genuinely hope that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think it will. Say his name and he appears.
Yeah.
Do you think he might turn up again in Morecambe?
We can try. We can only try.
Well, that's the story of Joe Hendry in Morecambe. Lucy Simons. 2015, 2016, Winter Gardens.
Yeah.